Welcome to the third and final webinar in the FY24 round of the Community One Stop for Growth. On behalf of the Healy Driscoll administration, we want to thank you for your interest in supporting and advancing economic growth throughout our state. My name is Pat Shannon, and I serve as the Community One Stop Coordinator at the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development. With me today is Felipe Zamberlini, Community Grants Coordinator at the Department of Housing and Community Development. The purpose of today's webinar is to guide you through the technical aspects of the One Stop. We'll walk through how to use the online application platform, from registering a new organization to creating and submitting your expression of interest and full applications. So the best way to access the platform is to go to the One Stop website. So if you go to www.mass.gov/onestop, you can navigate down to the How to Apply section of the page. Where if you scroll down, you'll find a couple of links to access the IGX platform. So here under key actions, you can see access the platform. The other way you can access the IGX platform is going straight there with the URL. So if you type eohed.intelligrants.com into your browser, that will get you there. We recommend once you get to the IGX login page, bookmark the page so that you can have easier access in the future. So we'll start with getting your organization set up. So if your organization is new to the One Stop, the first step you'll take is to register the organization. So on the One Stop login page, you'll go down to New Organization, Register here. You'll be presented a form that you must complete in order to register the organization. I will note that not all these fields are required. If you actually click this register button, you'll see the required fields in red. Get a lot of questions about the SAM number. This is a federal identification number that we do not require, but it's a default for our system. So we're unfortunately unable to remove that, but you do not need to enter a SAM number. You do, however, need to enter the FEIN, so the Federal Employer Identification Number, in order to submit the form. So you'll go down, you'll complete this form, you'll set up your username and password. Your password must contain at least 8 characters, including an uppercase letter, a lowercase letter, and a number. And then once you have the form all filled out, you'll click register, and it'll be sent to the One Stop team to review and approve. It does usually take between 1 and 2 business days for your account to be verified and activated. If your organization is already registered in the IGX system, new users can be added by the organization's grant administrator, and that's the route we'd prefer you to take if your organization is already registered. So to add a new user, grant administrators are going to take the following steps. So first, you'll log into the system. You'll click your name in the upper right-hand corner and select Profile. And once you get to the profile page, you'll go to the right or the left-hand menu and select Organization Members. Here you'll see a member search. And so you'll want to click the plus sign in the upper right corner of this box, and you'll click Add New User Organization. So now you'll fill out the form with general information and contact info, and then you'll get to a section where you will assign a role. So you'll have 3 options: consultant, grant administrator, and grantee staff. You want to assign any staff that'll be working on your expression of interest or full applications as either grantee staff or grant administrator, depending on the permissions that you want the user to have. So grantee staff will be able to work on EOI or a full application. They'll be able to save it. However, they will not be able to create a new document or submit. Only the grant administrator can start a document or submit. In addition, grant administrators can add a new person, as we're doing now. The consultant role is reserved for users outside of your organization that will be assisting on your application. So again, they like the grantee staff, consultants can edit and save a document, but they cannot create or submit on behalf of the organization. Finally, you'll create a username and password, just like if you're creating for yourself. Password, again, needs to be 8 characters with uppercase, lowercase letters, and a number. And then once you hit save, an email will be sent to the new user, and they'll be able to log in and update their password. All right, so when you log into the IGX system, you will land on the dashboard. And so this is a new account, and this is actually, I wanted to showcase the dashboard with nothing on it to start, because this is an issue that we've had in this round. It's kind of a timing issue, but some users will, when they log in for the first time, will see that this dashboard's blank. So if you see a blank dashboard, it's very easy to get the panels that you need added. So all you're going to do is go up to your name again and click Edit Dashboard. So from here, you'll click the Add Panel button, and you'll click the drop down here. So I have a few more options than you'll see when you're in here, but the first thing you want to do is select My Tasks. You'll click Save, and now you see the My Task panel here. We'll go back, we'll do Add Panel, we'll select My Opportunities, click Save, and now you have My Opportunities. So now we'll save, and the 2 panels that you need are there. So we'll start off with the My Opportunities panel on the right side of the screen. So this is where you'll create a new document. So you'll see here, create new form. You can click expression of interest to create a new expression of interest, or click new full, once-off full application to create a new full application. Once you create a new document and start working on it, you can save it. If you exit or if you submit it, you'll see the existing documents that you're either currently working on or have already submitted will live in the My Tasks panel. So you can always go back to My Tasks to access your existing documents. So that's our dashboard. I am now going to hand it over to Felipe to walk us through the expression of interest.
Thanks, Pat, and hi, everyone. As Pat mentioned earlier, my name is Felipe Zamberlini. I'm the Community Grants Coordinator at DHCD and one of the members of the Expression of Interest Review Panel. So to start a new expression of interest, as Pat was just showing, simply click on the Expression of Interest link in the New Document box on your dashboard. A message will pop up with an agreement language. Agree to the terms by simply hitting Agree, and you'll be taken straight to the Expression of Interest form. The EOI opens on the document landing page, and here you will see a menu on the left side of the screen. There you can access the 2 sections of the EOIs. You should always start with section 1. That's applicant information. First question in this section asks for the primary location. This refers to the location of the project and is very important, as it will drive the data that is eventually populated in the table below it. Once you click Save, you will see the data populate itself. As you can see, when you save, a report will appear showing any error message for any required question that has not been answered. This is really useful for you to keep an eye on. The form still saves, and you can return later on to fill this information. However, you will not be able to submit the EOI until all of the errors have been cleared. We do encourage that you save periodically as you complete the form to avoid losing any work that you have already completed. Now, for section 1 in the expression of interest, it's almost identical to section 1 in the full application. And applicants that submit an EOI will see that the corresponding field in section 1 of the full application will already be populated with the information that you entered here in your EOI. So after you have completed section 1, you can then move on to section 2 by either clicking section 2, priority projects / initiatives on the left side menu, or just by selecting next form at the bottom of your screen. In section 2, you will answer the questions related to your project. The last question will ask you if you would like to add a second project. If you do want to enter a second project, select yes, and an identical set of questions will appear for you to answer related to your second project. Once you complete these questions, you should hit save to make sure you do not have any errors. And if there are no errors, you should see check marks next to the section names on the left side menu, showcasing that everything is all set. You will then scroll to the very bottom of the menu on the left side of the screen and hit the Submit Expression of Interest button. Now, after you've submitted your EOI, it will go to the review team and a feedback report will be created. When the feedback report is posted, you will receive an email notifying you to log back into IGX to view the feedback. To view the feedback, you will log into IGX and find your expression of interest in the My Documents section of your dashboard. The EOI will now have the status feedback received. When you open your EOI, you will see a new option on the left menu called Feedback Report. This is where you'll be able to download and view your feedback report.
All right, so now we're going to take a look at how to create and submit a full application. So just like the EOI, to create a new full application, we're going to go to the My Opportunities panel, and we're going to select the one-stop full application link. So we'll agree to the language, and the new full application will open. So before we get into the application, I would like to share a new feature that we are very excited about. So when you open your full application, go to the document landing page. When you go to the menu on the left, you'll see a new form called One-Stop Resources. We heard from applicants that it could be very difficult to find all of the one-stop resources available on the internet. And we wanted to make sure that every applicant had quick and easy access to all the information they needed when completing a full application. So here on this page, you'll find all the information you need, including information about completing the application and the application structure, understanding the development continuum, applicant eligibility, and links to every program website. So whenever you need this information when completing the full application, just click the One-Stop Resources page. All right, so now we're going to jump into the actual application. So again, we'll start by going into Form 1 of applicant information. So here, as Felipe noted, you can see that this form is populated with all of the information that we entered into the expression of interest. Again, I'd just like to highlight that when completing the expression of interest, we selected Merrimack as our project location. And here in this table, you'll see that Merrimack is a small town and a housing choice community, which is important because that qualifies them for the Rural and Small Town Development Fund, as well as the Housing Choice Grant Program. And they're also an MBTA community. So section 1 of the full application has some additional questions that you didn't see when completing the full application. So first off, it'll ask if this is a joint application between one or more entities. And to clarify, by joint application, we're talking about a formal arrangement between the applicant and another organization that will essentially share the money if awarded a grant at the time of contracting. So we'll basically be contracting with two entities. So this doesn't refer to just a project partner that we see on most projects submitted through the one-stop. So I'm going to select no. We're applying for this project on our own. And now, since I'm a public entity in an MBTA community, I'm asked a question about the status of the community's compliance with the guidelines for multifamily zoning districts under Section 3A of the Zoning Act. So I'm going to answer, in this case, I'll say that we have not submitted an action plan, and I'll get a note telling me that because of our status, we're not eligible for funding through the MassWorks program or Housing Choice Grant program. So now I'm going to save the page. And now that I've saved, form 2 project information appears. So now we'll go to the next section. So section 2, project information, is where I'll enter general information about the project that's required by all programs, regardless of the type of project being proposed, such as the project name and the project abstract. This year, we've expanded section 2 to include questions that were previously asked elsewhere in the application, such as project scope and budget. And we did this to allow for the consolidation of a number of questions that we found to produce duplicative answers. So I'll go ahead and get started filling out the application. We'll call this project 1. We'll provide a very general Latin description of the project. And that will take us to question 2.3. So question 2.3 is the single most important question in the entire application. This is where applicants are asked to indicate the development continuum category that the project falls in. New this year, applicants are also asked to select a project type and project focus within the development continuum category. The reason that this question is so important is that the selection made here will drive the questions that the applicant will answer throughout the rest of the application, and in large part will determine which programs review the application. Today, we're only going into the mechanics of the application. However, I recommend watching webinars 1 and 2 to learn about how this question relates to your project. So before I make my selection to this question, I want to scroll down and take a look at the question where you're asked for a budget. So you'll see here that you get a note saying to access the budget, question 2.3 must be completed and saved without errors. The reason for this is that the line items shown in the budget will vary depending on your answer to question 2.3. And so we want a way to make sure that you have the correct line items based on your selection before allowing for an answer. You'll also notice that there's no form 3 here. Again, form 3 will be driven by your selection in 2.3. So that form will not appear until question 2.3 is answered and saved without errors. So as a municipality, you can see that I'm able to choose from all 5 development continuum categories. If I were to go back to section 1 and change my organization type to a non-public, nonprofit entity, the choices here would reduce to only community activation and placemaking, site preparation, and building, because those are the 3 categories that nonprofits as well as community development corporations are eligible to apply for funding. If I were to go back and select a for-profit entity, the only category that I would see would be the buildings category. So now I'm going to answer the question. So for this project, I am proposing a building project. And as you can see, this prompts me to select a project type. Each development continuum category has 2 project types associated with it. So in this case, I'll select building pre-development. Now I must choose the project focus. The project I'm proposing fits in the building rehabilitation feasibility study category. So that's what I'll select. But before I do that, I'd like to note that each project focus is tied to a one-stop program that is most likely to review the application. When you hover over any of the project focus radio buttons, you'll see a pop-up that tells you which program is most likely to review your application. So in this case, the underutilized properties program is probably going to be reviewing my application. And I'm going to check that radio button. So now you can see a few sub focus areas pop up. Not all the project focus options throughout 2.3 have sub focus areas, but the ones that do, the purpose is really just to get specific and really understand the focus of your project. So if I were to select collaborative workspace feasibility pre-development, there wouldn't be any additional options that open. All right, so I'm going back, making my selection, and I am proposing a development feasibility study. So now I've made my selection in 2.3, and I'm going to save. So now that I saved, as Felipe noted earlier, I get this attention box telling me which required questions I still have to answer. So as I continue filling out this form, and each time I save, I should see this list shrink until eventually I've answered all the required questions, and I'll get that check mark next to the form on the menu on the left. So now I'm going to go through and I'll complete the section. All right, and now I get down to the budget. And as you can see, now there's 3 line items that are associated with the project focus that I selected. So I'm going to fill out the budget here. Say 5,000, 10,000, and 8,000. There's an opportunity to provide line item justifications to explain what's going into these numbers. And then applicants are also asked whether there'll be a match. So this is where if you are providing a match for your project, if you say yes, you can indicate the amount, description. You can indicate whether the match includes local ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds. So in this case, I'll just say I have a $15,000 match, provide a description, and I'll say no, this does not include ARPA funds. So next up, you can see the site information section. So site information is required for projects being submitted through the site preparation, buildings, and infrastructure development continuum categories. Applicants submitting a project through either the community activation and placemaking or planning and zoning sections will not see these questions appear. I'll complete these. I'll add, upload an attachment. Great, and now I will save. So now at the bottom of the section, you'll see that I'm asked 2 special designation questions, asking whether I intend to complete Section 8 special designation additional questions. Again, I'm applying as a public organization in the town of Merrimack, which is both a small town, making me eligible for a rural and small town development fund, as well as a housing choice community, making me eligible for consideration by the Housing Choice Grant Program. If I were applying as a non-public entity or a community without the required designations, I would not see these questions. If I answer yes to the housing choice question, I will see Section 8 on Form 3A populate with questions specific to the Housing Choice Grant Program. And again, if I select yes to the rural and small town question, I'll see a form populate with questions specific to the Rural and Small Town Development Fund. It's up to the applicant to decide whether they want to complete this form. And applicants may choose not to for various reasons. Maybe they know that the project won't be competitive for the program. However, selecting no to either of these questions will result in you not being able to answer the associated questions, and then you will not be able to this application would not be able to be considered for funding by the associated program. So for example, in this case, I'm going to say that yes, I do intend to complete Section 8 and answer the rural and small town additional questions. So that means that as long as my projects within the budget maximum for the Rural and Small Town Development Fund, they will consider this application. And I'm going to select no for the housing choice communities. So in this case, I will not be answering the housing choice additional questions within Section 8, and the Housing Choice Grant Program will not consider this application for funding. All right, so now I'm going to save the form. And now you can see that Form 3A special designation questions has appeared in my forms menu. So now we're going to go on to Form 3. So Form 3 is populated with the development continuum questions. So as you can see here, this form is populated with Section 6, building. And that's because I selected building as my development continuum category. I selected building pre-development as my project type, and I selected building rehabilitation feasibility study as my project focus. Here I'm given a link to the Underutilized Properties Program website where I can review the guidelines and really understand the program that's most likely to review this application. All right, so I'm going to go through and complete this form just like I completed form 2. I want to pause here in the attachment. So as some of you may recall, in previous years, when you're asked to attach a document, you could only attach one document at a time. New this year, the system does allow for multiple documents to be added to an attachment area. So you can see added document 1, and now I'm going to add a second document. So now I have both documents uploaded and saved into the form. So I'll go through and finish applying. Do I own the property? Yes. I'll complete this table. All right, and now I've completed form 3, so I'll save. And now we'll move on to 3A, the special designation questions. So again, in section 2, I elected only to answer the Rural and Small Town Development Fund additional question. So, and I chose not to answer the housing choice questions. So here I can see that I'm only presented with the Rural and Small Town additional questions. So I will complete the questions presented. And again, I'll say, as Felipe noted, you can save either by clicking save up in the right hand corner, or you can click next form to save and move on to the next form. All right, so now we're on to form 4, which contains the certification of applicant submission authority. So this is essentially a signature page that confirms that the applicant has the authority to submit the application on behalf of the organization. 9.1 asks if the applicant is a public entity. In this case, we are. So it asks if the application requires a formal vote by a board to be submitted. If I were to click yes, I need to attach a certified copy of the vote. I'm going to select no. 9.2 is for non-public entities, so in this case, it's not applicable. And now I'll just fill out the rest of this form. So I, at Shannon, am submitting on behalf of EOHED, and I will sign. And I'll enter today's date. And now I'll save. So you'll see at the bottom of the screen, there's an option to save and submit. So you can also click that. As it says, it'll save, and it's a method for submitting the form. But before we submit, I want to jump to form 5, which is other optional attachments. So form 5 is not, you don't need to complete form 5 in order to submit the application. This is essentially just a area where applicants can upload any additional attachments that weren't required throughout the application. Generally, these attachments won't be scored when the application is being reviewed. But sometimes applicants have additional documents that they want to provide for a little more context. And so this would be the place to do that. Again, you do not have to upload any documents or save the form in order to submit the application. All right, so to submit, just like the EOI, now that I can see that every required form is has been saved without errors and is good to go. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the menu on the left and click Submit Full Application. All right, and now my application is submitted, and it will go to the partner agencies for review. Again, if I go to the dashboard, I'll see in my existing documents. First, I can see my expression of interest that we submitted at the beginning of this demo, and now I can see my full application. So if I want to go back into either document, I just have to click the links, and I can see either my EOI or full app. So that is our technology webinar. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this webinar. Please visit mass.gov/onestop for more information, including access to the IGX platform and video recordings of all 3 webinars. If you have any questions related to the OneStop or IGX platform, please send them to onestop@mass.gov. Thank you very much.